This episode is dedicated to the memory of Hot Rod Biggs.
This is me, Mike Woods. Give me back my pro wrestling.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This is Steve Bowtie Bryant here. Back in the 90s, I was a pro wrestling photographer for the South, and I released what might have been one of the original sets of indie trading cards. I ran across some of these original sets. They were up in Randall Fanning's attic all this time. PG-13 rookie card, Ricky Morton, George Weingroff as the Sheik, Chris Champion, Reno Riggins, Billy Montana, Gary Valiant, the Scorpion, the Medic, Rick Reynolds, Jeff Daniels, Mephisto and Dante, Ben Jordan, Steve Neely, Marcus Woodrow, Clinton Charisma, Little Farmer John. If you'd like an opportunity to get these cards, contact me now. You can get them for only $49.99. Contact me at Steve Bowtie Bryant at iCloud.com. Get your set now while supplies last.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one more time to the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast, and I'm here as always with my brother from the same father and mother, the Plastic Sheik, Jared Street. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Oh, not much, brother. How about you?
Man, just, doing this thing. I say that all the time. I need something new, but
this thing called podcasting.
Anyway, but yeah.
I'm not a singer, as you can all tell.
Yeah, well, hey, all tell. Anyway, well, I guess let's start off with some sad news. Now, we do have a guest coming up, so that's not sad. Me and Mike Woods will be on the show, and we will talk about this person with Mike. Obviously, they were longtime friends, and I can't wait to hear some stories from him. But unfortunately, as you heard at the beginning of the show, this episode is dedicated to the memory of Hot Rod Biggs, our friend. He was guest on episode 34 with us, and yeah, man, this is just, we just saw him at the reunion, and this is just a tough one, man. I don't know how to say it any other way other than this is just a tough one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, he was a great guest. He was one of those guys. We just, we've mentioned it several times. We would just start out the conversation a little bit, direct it a little way, and he would just go with it and tell us story upon story. And it just one of the most organic podcasts we've ever had. And he was so nice to us and good to us to tell those stories. And meeting him in at the Right Way reunion, man, it was a pleasure. And yeah, it's too soon, man. He's gone too soon, and my condolences to everybody that knew and loved him. And it's it's not easy, but he just got to look back on the great memories of everything he's done. So
yeah, and they're out there. Go to the Nashville Wrestling Network YouTube channel. Go to Brian Turner's VHS Rehab channel. Go to our channel. I mean, there's so many things out there. I'm just so proud we got that show with Hot Rod. We were planning a part 2, and as much as I'm proud of us getting the first one, I regret not getting the second one. And Wolfie and I had even talked about bringing him on, and it was just timing never clicked, and things just never materialized past, the first episode. But, we could have probably had 5 episodes with him and not had enough now, but
yeah, absolutely.
His real legacy is wrestling, and go watch some matches. If you're feeling down or you're feeling sad thinking about him, go watch a match. I mean, that's where Hot Rod really came alive. You know what I mean? And he was a multi-talented, very intelligent individual. And yeah, it's never going to be the same. That's just one of those guys that once they're gone, they're never going to be the same. And that's just, things will never be the way they were with him. So I don't want to go too deep into this because I do want to kind of let Mike talk about it too. So, we love you, Hot Rod. We're going to miss you. And we know that we'll see you again, man. So we'll pause that conversation until we can get Mike on the line here. But, other than that, I mean, there's not much else. I mean, there's things going on, obviously, as always, but there's not much else that trumps that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'll just say this. Hold your loved ones close. If you haven't talked to somebody in a while, talk to them. Give them a call. I'm sure it would mean a lot. Shoot them a text. Stay in touch with your people. Stay close to your people. Don't take it for granted that they'll be there tomorrow. I mean, we've lost relatives here recently, that we were very close to. And, even though Hot Rod, we weren't related to him, we did feel close to him. We were friends with him, and yeah, I mean, he's just irreplaceable, and it's always the good ones that die young is what they say. And unfortunately, Rod was one of the very best. So, well, we do have a very good guest today. Obviously, we've been talking about it. Mean Mike Woods, this guy's been on the list really from the start because we had Plunky on, and Plunky talked about him, and it rung a bell in my brain that said, hey, man, we got to get Mike on. I never knew him, but I'm looking forward to get to know him. We met him at the reunion, and, I'm just excited to get to talk to him, and we definitely appreciate you all checking it out. And we will be right back with Mean Mike Woods. How's that sound?
Sounds great, man.
All right, we'll be right back after these messages on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Gene Jackson here, inviting you to join us for the Retro Wrestling Review Podcast, where each week I'm joined by guest co-host to review and discuss old school pro wrestling. Right now, we're doing week-by-week reviews of USWA Memphis from 1993. We have an audio version of the podcast as well as a video version if you want to check out the clips of the show we're talking about. It's a lot of fun, so for this and a lot of other great wrestling content, check out WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com.
All right, we are back with more from Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, and once again, we've got another good one, Jared. Man, what are you thinking, Sheik? This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. It's always good to talk to these guys and get their story, man.
Yeah, and we met this gentleman at the reunion officially. I've heard his name for years. For the time that I worked in the business, I don't even know that we came across one another, unfortunately. But either way, we've got him here today. He is Mean Mike Woods. Mike, how are you doing, brother? Thank you for coming on.
Man, I'm doing good. I can't complain.
Yeah.
I always consider it a blessing every time I wake up and I'm on this side of the dirt,
Amen.
Absolutely, man.
Well, we normally try to start it off with an upbeat question, but unfortunately, the number one thing we got to talk about today, I think, is the loss of our friend Hot Rod Biggs. Unfortunately, he passed on, and he's doing better than we are, though. You know what I'm saying, Mike? But
he sure is.
Man, talk about Hot Rod.
His hand's not crippled anymore. That's for sure, brother.
Exactly.
And I know that broke his heart when he couldn't physically perform in the ring anymore because he had such a passion and probably one of the most talented guys ever. Just overall with the in-ring performance, promos, his character, and just everything about him.
Yeah.
And the saddest thing about waking up to the news of his passing is the night before I'd been watching Dark Side of the Ring and I fell asleep and I woke back up and it came on and I was laying in bed before I fell back asleep again, and that Women of Wrestling came on and there's this girl come out blowing a whistle, her character, and I got a chuckle about it. I was like, man, I'm gonna have to call Hot Rod tomorrow and get a good laugh about that, and then first thing I woke up to a text from my girlfriend telling me that she heard he passed away. So
Man, it's every time we lose one of the boys, right? Like anytime we always say, hey, man, tell every day, tell the people close to you. But I think with Hot Rod, you can take so much from him, because just think of, I know, when he was on our show, he talked about that his God is a good God. And I know Hot Rod's heart was right. I know he's doing good. He's smacking somebody with a stop sign up in heaven right now, so, but Hot Rod, yeah, love tap. Exactly. But to me, Hot Rod, Wolfie and I were just talking about this on our show, and we think, Hot Rod would have been incredible as a manager for anybody at any time. And I'm talking about any level. I personally think.
Oh, yes.
Hot Rod could have been a manager for anyone. I mean, you name him, he could do it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not even saying like on the indies. I'm talking about in the big leagues too.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
And color commentator, he was incredible too. I think his size might have kept him down a little bit, but either in the territories or now, I think he would succeed. There was a time that it was all giants, but I think either in the territory time or even now with the smaller guys, had Hot Rod, I think he could wrestle anywhere too. You know what I mean? And,
for his size, he did pretty good. I can tell you that, because I had the honor of sharing the ring with him multiple times, and he wasn't stiff per se, but he wasn't afraid to lay one in there, But by and large, he was someone I considered smooth. He was very, very fluid, and he just ring general like not many others for sure.
Yeah, no question. And dude, the microphone, I mean, that's just something that if Hot Rod, like you've worked an angle with him before, right? I'm sure you've worked.
I've worked a couple. I worked them on just matches here and there. I don't remember too many long angles with him, but I do remember wrestling him multiple times over the years here and there.
Yeah,
I believe it was in Petersburg, McMinnville, the first time that I wrestled him at the cheese factory.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. And I just can't imagine trying to battle him on the microphone. That would be almost impossible, So
yeah, no, it's like peeing into a fan. It's not going to end up well,
Exactly. And, I mean, there's a few guys that we can think of that really owned that microphones. Guys like Jamie Dundee, guys like those guys. But I feel like Hot Rod was up there with all of them, man. And he's, just the stuff he could say and how he said it. And people don't know this, but I listened to an interview of his last night, and he was such a walking contradiction, partly truth and partly fiction. That's from the famous words of Chris Christopherson. Johnny Cash sang it. But what I mean by that is, he literally was a college graduate, CPA, did my taxes 3 years in a row, but he also spent a little time in jail. And that's that explains Hot Rod. And I'm not trying to glorify the criminal, and I'm not trying to underplay how intelligent he was, but he just walked that line so well. And I think that's what made him so loved, man. I think people understood that no matter what, people probably undersold him too, when he's just one of them dumb wrestlers, and he goes in there and he's probably got a very high IQ. He could blow you away with some stuff. And it's just, yeah.
We should get him. We asked him what we say, whatever the square root of say 743 and, is or something, you ask him something divided by two, some crazy number, and he spit it out with decimal points, and I mean, it was phenomenal. Blow my mind. And to know some of the things personally, but I mean, for him to still be able to do that, it was like, geez, Louise.
I know. Yeah, and I mean,
great dude, man.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's the way to say it, is the great dude. He really was, man. And, we're definitely going to miss him. And we definitely appreciate you sharing some stuff about him, Mike. I'm so glad I got to see you at the reunion, but I'm very glad that I got to see Hot Rod at the reunion. That meant a lot.
Well, at the reunion, he and I actually, we talked, out there, but we actually sat in my car spoke privately for probably 10 minutes, but right before he left.
Yeah.
And,
that's awesome.
And I told him when we were still in the building, about the award that I received, along with Jeff Daniels this year, the Heat Magnet Award.
Yeah.
I told him, I walked over to him and told him, I said, brother, every time I hear the words inscribed on this award, I think of you, and that's honest God's truth, and he told me that he won it the year before,
Yeah. And he did it without cheap heat too. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the whole point, right? But dude, he I think they should rename that to the Hot Rod.
I do too, man. I do too. I'm very. I'll second that nomination. Yeah. Well,
if you're listening, Shane, let us know what you think. So,
I think it'll be very appropriate in all honesty.
I agree. And I think that would be a nice tribute for him too, So, but yeah, well, we're going to miss you, Hot Rod. And, we'll see you on the other side, vaya con Dios, brother. We'll see you. I guess let's go ahead and get started because, I tell you, man, you've got such a cool career too. We definitely are, bringing you on to focus on that. So I tell you what, to pivot to a little lighter subject, Sheik, take the first question.
All right, Mike. So this is a question I'm just going to let everybody kind of get to know you and your influences in the wrestling business. But if you had like a list of like 4 or 5 guys that either influenced you love to watch, or just that you were just a huge fan of, like your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, give us 4 or 5 guys on that list.
Oh, let's see. I know growing up, one of my biggest. I was a big fan. I was born and raised in Texas. I moved to Tennessee in 1986. But I was a big Kerry Von Erich fan, and the whole Von Erich, brothers, and of course, I despised the Freebirds, but as I got to know more about the business, I had a great deal of appreciation for Terry Gordy.
Yeah.
So I definitely say that Terry Gordy would have to be on that Mount Rushmore.
Man, what a pick.
I always liked Ric Flair too, just the way he talked and, the whole style and profile, and, he lived his gimmick too. That's one thing that, there wasn't much separating, him from his gimmick. And some guys can separate and some guys can't. I mean, I've battled with that myself over the years, trying to separate myself from my gimmick. But I'll also go with I'd say Bobby Eaton.
Oh man!
And I actually had the pleasure to wrestle Bobby several times and travel with him a little bit. And the nicest guy in the wrestling business is, very true statement. And just the way he worked, it almost looked like it was just effortless.
Exactly.
I think he could just about. You guys talk about being able to wrestle a broomstick. I think Bobby could tear the house down with his eyes closed with a broomstick.
Yeah,
I mean, literally.
Yeah, one hand tied behind his back.
Yes. Yes.
I love Bobby. And I've said this many times. He helped me get over. I'd known him from working with him in Virginia a few times. And, man, once you know Bobby and you work with him and he trusts you just a little bit, bro, he opens doors that you don't even understand, man. So I love Bobby. I think he's definitely one of the greats of all time for sure. Yeah.
Gypsy Joe was also one around here. That helped me tremendously.
Yeah,
I mean, there's so many guys that played a big part of my career. From Shane Morton, my high school friend, to Brian Lee, who gave me some good official training and foundation. To Jeff Daniels and Tommy and Tommy Hagee. When I came to NWA Main Event, I mean they kind of told me what they want and helped create the character of Mean Mike Woods and let me just do what I could do with it, and gave me a lot of trust and faith, and that gave me confidence in myself because I was nervous as hell coming to National Wrestling Alliance, and from the Indies. I mean, I guess I'm still on the Indies, but you're actually working for a historic traditional organization, something that you grew up watching. The NWA title was always the main one,
Yeah, definitely. And it was one of the premier promotions of the NWA at that time, for sure, man. I mean, as far as activity going and the guys working there, incredible guys. It was definitely a part of tradition, and it's cool. I got to work with Porter, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but I got to work with Porter there near the end of his run with the NWA, and man, let's just say the glory days had long gone.
Had, most definitely.
Yeah. Well,
definitely.
Yeah, but we'll get to that in a minute because I definitely want to talk more about an NWA main event. But so let me start with this one then. Tell us about your younger days. Like, where were you born? Where'd you go to high school? That kind of thing, man.
I was born in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
I went to high school in my freshman year. I went to Cuero High School in Texas. They were a state football powerhouse, ironically enough.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we moved between my freshman and sophomore year, we moved to Tennessee. And so I went to the old Smyrna High School for my sophomore and junior year. And then by that time, Rutherford County had grown so much that they had built 2 new high schools, one in Laverne and a new one in Smyrna. And since I lived on the Laverne side of the creek, they ran through the middle of Smyrna. I was zoned for Laverne High School. So gotcha. I graduated from the inaugural Laverne High School class.
Gotcha. Okay. Did you play any sports in high school, brother?
I was on the high school wrestling team in my junior and senior year, and then I played football my senior year too. Okay. You're a pretty big guy too, man. How tall are you? I'm 6'4". Yeah, I was going to guess 6'5", but yeah, you're a pretty tall guy, man. So, I'm sure that helped. So when did you start liking pro wrestling? I started liking pro wrestling as a kid because my grandmother lived in and I had a grandmother lived in Pasadena, and which is basically a suburb of Houston there. And she got the Houston Championship Wrestling on her TV. And then her mother lived down in Cuero, and she had cable, so she got Georgia Championship Wrestling on TBS. Oh, nice. And then where we lived, we got World Class Championship Wrestling on the station. Our local station picked up World Class Championship Wrestling, so that was the 3 major ones that I grew up watching. Yeah, that's some great ones to grow up with, man. I got to see Shawn. I got to see guys come. I got to see Rock and Roll Express come in in the Midnight Express, and I told Bobby when we met, that how much I hated the Midnight Express growing up, and we all did. Donnie the driver, he was like, "Damn, Donnie, what you got me in here with? Got me somebody hates me. You gonna kill me or something? How Bobby was. They like to pick. Oh, totally. Yeah." That's great, man. That's great.
So Mike, tell us about your start in wrestling, like who trained you and first match and stuff like that.
Well, man, I started. The guy, my best friend Brian, is wrestled as Brian Cheatham. We've been best friends since we met first day of homeroom. We've been friends since August 1986 when school started. But he actually got into wrestling. He was trained by a Colorado kid, and nice. we had always been, we used to get in trouble in homeroom all the time because he'd tap me on the shoulder and I'd turn around and he'd be coming off a double axe handle or something, and I'd fall out on the floor and the teacher's like, hey, I don't know how many times we almost got sent to the office for horsing around and wrestling. and anyway, but he got a chance to work. He was trained by a Colorado kid, and he was with Bert, and doing some shows there, and we went and set up rings, and my first wrestling lesson was actually given to me by Mike Rapato, a Colorado kid. First bump, taught me how to take my first bumps, I guess, Mm-hmm, well, then Bert and I, if y'all knew Bert, not to speak ill of the dead, he's right. He and I crossed paths multiple times years later, so there was no ill feelings, but at the time we kind of butted heads about some things because I was, obviously green as grass and not, understanding how, things worked. I mean, we set the ring up, and then he put us all out of the building, and then made us pay to get back in to take the ring down after the show. And now I understand now it's paying your dues, but at the time it's kind of like, I'm recently divorced, with 2 kids, paying child support and trying to, keep a roof over my own head and chase my dream of breaking into the wrestling business. I just, I couldn't, I just didn't have it like that to be, just treated like a money mark, I guess, is kind of how.
Yeah.
And then there was I can't remember, the guy wrestled as, I want to say Rob Devine, or the Heartthrob Rob Devine. And he started working with us. We would go to like Grand Slam and Smyrna and just bump on the basketball court type stuff and chain wrestle and things like that. And just, I don't know, we just kind of, you know, we were training, we thought, you know, and then Brian decided he was going to run a show. He had a friend that worked at the Boys and Girls Club in Franklin. And so he was going to run a show. Well, Bert was supposed to help him. He gave Bert a bunch of money to pay some talent for Double Shot, you know, and Billy Travis and Doug Gilbert were supposed to be there, and some other guys, and they ended up showing up. But back then, you know, that time, this is October '97. You know, guys that weren't workers weren't supposed to be in the locker room, you know, and anyway, so, you know, brother took exception to the guy being in the locker room. The guy got mouthed off to him, the disrespect, boy. I get it now. I'm not, you know, my first interaction with these guys, you know, I mean, I'd seen them at some of the Burt shows that I'd seen work, you know, and it just, so they left, you know, I guess they'd already been paid, and that was where I had my first match. Gotcha. And then the guy ended up running another show in Clarksville on Halloween, like right at 2 weeks later. I want to say this. It was on a Saturday night when I had my first match, and I believe it was on a Friday. I believe Halloween was on a Friday, and it was in Clarksville at this hotel. I can't even remember the hotel, but it was at Clarksville. I mean, there was some names there. I mean, Wolfie and Jamie were on it. On that card, and that was you have to ask Wolfie about the drunk clown hitting the ring on him. The guy was dressed in drag, and he had these balloons, big old huge balloon tits under his shirt and stuff. And I think Wolfie and Jamie wanted to end up punting him, you know. It was a rather interesting night, and that night they just put me in a squash match. I just got the shit beat out of me. Yeah. You know. Okay. Me and another guy went out there. We go out there, lock up, and the guys hit the ring, and you know, just beat the shit out of both of us. You know. But I mean, but the guy was, you know, we've been paying him and stuff, and he was supposed to pay us for that, you know, pay me for that show wrestling at night. I'd given him some money to order me some tights. That, of course, they never showed up. Of course. You know. At that time we don't know, you know. Right, exactly. You know, you give him, you know, $300-400 for a set of boots, for a pair of boots and some tights, you know, and then, you know, but by that time, I mean, shortly after that is, you know, we figured out it wasn't going to work, and then Shane, you know, with that guy, and he disappeared, and I looked for him the rest of my career, you know, and I never did cross paths with that dude ever again. Wow. And Shane told me that he thought he heard he died, you know. Gotcha. He was just like scamming, you know, he was just scamming us, you know, and my friend had a business, and he ended up scamming him out of some money out of the business and everything, because he made like he had money, was going to sell, you know, we're going to buy it. And anyway, during when they started transition, he started yanking a lot of money, and anyway, they nipped that in the bud. It was just, it got messy. Man, that is an early lesson right there, bro. Right, man. So then Shane, you know, Shane got me some book. You know, Shane started working with me some, and my friend bought a ring, and we put the ring up in a little building, community center in Leanna, and we'd go and train, you know, and wrestle in there, and you know whatnot. And I worked a few shows with I wrestled Shane in Shelbyville at the Mullins. That was my third. I think it was my third match in December of '97, November, December of '97. So I had 3 or 4 matches in '97 there. I guess you call it matches, one including a beatdown, but. And I didn't understand that at the time either. You know, like they'd think I'd go out the door. Well, it turns out I went in the wrong door. I went in there was 2 doors, you know, one on one side and one on the other. I didn't realize which door I was at, you know, so I got thrown back out, and they whooped my ass all the way to the other door. Oh man. I guess I come out. I come out the I come out the hill door and I went back in the baby door, I guess. And yeah, not the thing to do.
Yeah, man. So I guess around this time, like, what do you feel like you're learning? I mean, obviously the guy ripped you off. You're learning a lesson about not trusting guys, but what are you learning like the most at this point?
I'm having to learn on the fly. I'm having to just learn on the fly, man. I mean, just work with, you know, I'm very limited. You know, I was very limited. Even today, after 26 years, I don't really consider myself to be, you know, super technical. I've never been, if you look at any of my matchups, I've never been super, you know, I'm not known as the technician, you know, or anything, the most technical wrestler in the world. I mean, it's not really my style, you know. I mean, I can do some of those things, but I choose to, you know, do primarily what works for me. And
dude, once you find that, that's what you got to stick with, man. Because if it's working, you know, so
just like the whole Mean Mike Woods band with eyes without the face thing, you know, I cut that I said that in my first promo down at Coleman Studios when I came to NWA Main Event. And that was just all of rib. I had that Billy Idol, you know, Eyes Without a Face song stuck in my head, you know, and I was looking in the rearview mirror, and my roommate was a worker/referee at the time, and so we were riding down the road, and I started cutting a promo on him, and I told him, I was like, I'm the man with eyes without the face. Try your whole life long. These eyes you can't erase. And he said, man, that's good. You got to use that in your promo. And so when I did, you know, and the guy, even the people filming, they were kind of like, damn, you know, that was good. Man, it debuted on TV, and it's like that next night on Saturday morning, and then held that night at the damn show. I mean, there were people that were doing the horns, and sticking their tongue out at me and calling me signs, you know, me, Mike Wood, man with eyes out the face. And man, that's what a lot of people know me by. And I still get teased about it a lot, but
yeah.
But that's where that came from. And I'm doing that. It's worked for 20 years. Why try to change my gimmick into something else now?
Yeah. It you know, something that works usually sticks, right? I mean, you have to almost do something severely drastic, you know, to change it up.
Where did the Mean Mike come from?
Where did the Mean and Mean Mike come from?
Yeah, where did you come up with that from, I guess?
Jeff Daniels, because I'd wrestled as Mikey Woods, you know, or Mike Woods, and Jeff just said, you just need to make you Mean Mike Woods. Just make it, you know, just big old mean heel, you know. That's what I was wrestling as. That's what I was wrestling as anyway, just big old mean heel, you know, big mean tough guy, you know. And so that's kind of where that Jeff's the one that put the mean on there.
Cool.
You know, I like that. And honestly, I'm not really a mean person, you know. I mean, most people find that, you know, I'm in the locker room, I'm laughing and joking and cutting up, and, you know, but when time to flip the switch and go to the ring, and, you know, and then I, you know, glaring at you across the ring like I'm, you know, going to hurt you really bad, and it's a little different.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I've learned, the heels are always the better guys, man, the nicer guys. I'm not knocking the baby faces. There's a lot of good baby faces in the Nashville scene, in that Middle Tennessee area. But when it comes down to it, in the overall scheme of pro wrestling, I have found that the heels are usually the better guys, man. And that's just my comment there. What do you think about that?
I can't disagree. I mean, I've got friends that are baby faces, or
sure,
you know, but predominantly the ones that I've been closest to over the years have been the heels, you know, and the ones that I've learned the most from have been the heels.
Yeah, exactly. And I was a heel. I'm not saying that because I was a heel. I'm just saying I found that to be the truth, man. So what's your favorite, I guess, what's a favorite memory of yours just when you were becoming a wrestler? Is there something that you remember when you started out that you just always remember?
That's a pretty good one right there. Well, I mean, just the, you know, the way things were then. When I broke in during the transition, I guess, you know, when things were it was somewhat the end of the territories, but things were changing, you know, at that time, you know, and lot of the old guard was on their way out, and there was some of the ones that were still around were, you know, the ones that were, I kind of break them down into two categories. Ones that were just trying at all costs to protect the old ways and keep it like it was, and then those that recognized that change was on the horizon and wanted to help those that were coming, you know.
Yeah.
I will say I was tested many times to, you know, to see, you know, I mean, there's many a guy that, you know, that's started and came, you know, got into the business, and the time that I did that, you know, they didn't last, you know.
Right.
I mean, there's guys that never made it out of training school, you know. So, I mean, I don't know if you saw that piece where they did with the guys where I was at in Brian Lee School, the News Channel 4.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a great.
You know, though I'd probably had when I stopped taking bookings, you know, to go to wrestling school with Brian Lee and train with him, I'd already had more matches than the two guys in the video ever had in their career combined together. So, I mean, I'm the only one that made it out of that particular school. And that's, you know, why when somebody asks me who trained me, I say Brian Lee. You know, that's a recognizable name and legitimate name. And, you know, he did, you know, he did train me and teach me a lot. I mean, he taught me a lot about life too. I mean, he told me that, you know, don't forget when, don't ever get the big head, you know, because, you know, you still got to come home and take out the trash, you know. So, you know, just because somebody's going to kiss your ass for, you know, 2 or 3 days out on the road don't mean that, you know, your wife's going to kiss your ass or your girlfriend's going to kiss your ass when you get home. So, you know, and I try to remember that, you know, as much as possible, you know, try not to let my head swell up. But, you know, the one time it did, I was blessed enough to have somebody in my life like Rick Reynolds who, you know, came to me and pointed out to me, you know, that the way I was acting. And so I had to be, you know, man enough to listen to what someone that I have immense love and respect for was telling me, you know, to be true and change my ways and slow my roll, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that, you know?
Definitely.
And I love Rick, man.
Me too.
More,
Rick's awesome.
I've told him this many times, man. Since the passing of my father 7 years ago, you know, he's the person that I can go to for counsel when, you know, if my life starts falling, you know, should the walls of my life start crumbling around me, you know, Rick's the person I'm gonna reach out to, because I know, you know, since I can't call my dad, you know, he's the one person that'll shoot me straight and give me, you know, sincere, honest, good Christian man advice. You know, sometimes that's what guys like me need to hear. Let's just put it that way, you know.
Amen. And I consider Rick the exact same. You know, my pops is alive still, and I still talk to him and get all kinds of advice from him. But, you know, Rick is somebody that doesn't have that parental style to him. He will listen to any story you need to tell him, and he'll give you great advice, but you don't have to worry about taking off your dad. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff you can tell him. And Rick, to me, man, is just, golly, I consider him one of my best friends just because the way, you know, the way he is. And man, you know, I love him, but he don't love me, man. How many times have you heard Rick say that about somebody, you know?
Yeah, he's definitely one of a kind. And he taught me a lot. I worked an angle with him in Columbia at the Armory, and he taught me a lot.
Yeah.
Taught me an awful lot.
Man, we can't pass up this because you did bring him up. And, bro, other than the fact that we can't find him, so if anybody knows where Brian Lee is, get in contact with Jimmy Street, and we really want to talk to him. But, hey, talk about Brian Lee, especially training with that dude, because, first of all, man, that's a dude. I mean, dude, primetime Brian Lee, for a big dude, he could go. For a guy who could go, he was smooth. He was so talented, had a great look. Man, he, you know, to me, I think he's somebody that, even though he had a lot of opportunities, I think the big time companies missed out on him, man, for sure. You know,
I do too. I mean, always good to me, man. I don't know if it's, I don't know if he just had a soft spot for me, or if he saw something in me. I know he used to tease me and tell me, Mike, I told you I need you to go to Jim, not Jim's Bar and Grill.
Yeah.
That's one thing I don't know, man. Just my lifestyle. I just never. I might could have made it somewhere myself if I'd got in the gym and paid more attention to my look. But man, I was trying to survive from one show to the next half the time, or get from one show to the next half the time, and there's times where I lived off of what I made wrestling, man. I mean, Buzzy and I were road partners, and we took of our payoff to keep us both and get some food and gas, and to get from one town to another. And
yeah, dude, Buzzy's awesome. Yeah,
he's one of my best friends too, man. We talk multiple times a week, every week, man. And
that's awesome.
And I still travel with him some. We've got back in the Evansville loop, 2 different promotions up there, so we're up there a couple Saturdays in a row here and there.
And you talking about, first of all, I definitely think that you could have gone further, and that's not saying like, hey, no, you didn't do that. I'm saying I definitely see that you could have gone further as well, especially during and I'm not saying the hardcore stuff necessarily. I'm just saying your working style would have been incredible in ECW, I think. And I'm not saying you had to be hardcore and get blood all the time and all that. I'm just saying I think your style could have easily succeeded up there, and especially too in TNA. I think you could have worked well in TNA. But let's not go with the woulda, coulda, shouldas. Let me say this, man. I've seen a lot of your matches, and I've seen you recently, brother. You're looking great, man. Like, what have you done to stay healthy and look like $1 million right now, brother?
The biggest thing I've done, man, is change my diet and not eat a lot of fried, fatty, foods all the time. And
so you don't eat any good stuff. I'm just kidding.
I do here and there. I mean, I'm a sucker for chicken fingers, or chicken tenders. So
yeah.
I can't. I don't know that I'll ever give those up. But just man, I've got a lot. I eat more vegetables, and I'm really big into that or organic apple cider vinegar.
Oh yeah, definitely. My wife is all about that, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got so many benefits, and it just, I take all kinds of supplements and, natural supplements and stuff in the morning, vitamins and things like that, things you got to do, guys at my age, the whole prostate health and all of that stuff, because, I don't know, according to some, I got a baby bladder, but I don't think it's that bad.
Mike, tell us about talk about some of the promotions you work for, like the best ones, the worst ones, the in-between ones, whatever, man. Just tell us about some of them you've worked for.
Man, I worked for, of course, I worked for Jack down at SWF over the years. I was on the first or second show in that building where he's at down there. Of course, I worked for Porter a lot over the years, and while he was running, and Shane always booked me. Whenever he was running, I worked for Shane quite a bit. I mean, the Mullins, Glenn Mullins and Shovel at Stadium Cab Company. That was
Stadium Cab. Exactly.
That was somewhat of an historic venue, too, because there were so many guys, Wolfie and Jamie wrestled there.
Gypsy Joe.
And I believe the hubcap that they used in their PG-13 gimmick came off of one of Glenn's Cadillacs down there. I'm not.
Wow, I heard that.
Wolfie'd have to verify that, but I remember hearing Glenn say that. So
I believe you're right. Actually, I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. And there's a great story about Wolfie and Gypsy Joe. Apparently, they were tag teaming together there, and Wolfie might have had a beverage or two before and there was a moment in the time. Were you there the night that he humped Gypsy Joe in the ring?
Man, I can't remember if I was or not. I was on quite a few of them shows, but I was in the ring with Wolfie in Evansville after some beverages one night, and when I walked in, I was trying, I love him, man, and I love him so much and respect him, I mean, and he's somebody that's underrated in my opinion too, because I mean, Wolfie's always been one of the smoothest guys I ever been in the ring with. I mean, he was just always so much fun and so easy to work with, you know. But he kept throwing he was in the turnbuckles and he just kept throwing a boot up, you know. And I walked into like three boots, you know, trying to get to him and to get somewhere with it. And you know, I walked in the dressing room after the match was over with, and Tim Renesto said, "Mikey Wood, watch out, Wolfie's throwing his boot up again." So I took a hell of a ribbon after, you know, about that, but. You know, and he asked me, he was like, "Brother, was y'all going to shoot on me or anything?" And I was like, "Well, hell no. We was trying like hell to work with you, brother." Yeah, too much love and respect for you to be trying to shoot on you.
Right. Yeah. Man, it's funny. I agree with you, man. And this isn't the Wolfie show, so I'm not going to go too far. But I definitely think from the stories, man, we've had 150 episodes. I've heard the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know what I'm saying, Mike? So when it comes down to it, man, I do think that. But, you know, Wolfie thinks a lot of you too, man. I don't want that to go unsaid. I know Wolfie, when I told him I was having you on, he was like, "Man, I like Mike. He's a good dude." So, yeah.
Well, I've always tried to be a friend to him. You know, if they ever needed me for anything, I always try to be there for him, just like
sure.
The other boys. But, you know, like I say, he's another one that's, you know, very talented in the ring, and that, you know, gave me pointers here and there, and, you know, taught me things over the years, you know. So, you know, like I say, man, a list of guys that helped is so long. You know, Tracy Smothers is another one. You know, he helped me a tremendous amount. You know,
that's awesome. Yeah, man. Tracy is just, what a good brother to all the guys, you know, man. I just remember we were at Saul one night, and he looked, and this was kind of a lean time. This was before Krull came out there with the NWA TV stuff. And he looked out in the crowd, and he says, "Boys," he's like, "if they riot, I believe we can take them." God, man.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many funny Tracy stories, man. I don't know if it'd be hard pressed to single one out. I'd probably end up having to drop 2 or 3.
Man,
you know?
Please. Yeah, please. That would be awesome.
So he loved my voice, man. He loved my voice. You know, he always told me, "Mikey, I love your voice. I love your voice."
That's awesome.
When you mentioned ECW, you know, you want to talk about a surreal moment, you know, was I remember watching as I'm first breaking into business, you know, I mean, we're talking, you know, still 97 here, you know, I'm watching Tracy, you know, drop the Python elbow on the ECW pay-per-view somewhere. Yeah. And then flash forward years later, I got to tag with him in a match in Columbia and got to drop the Python elbow on a guy with him. So, man, that was a super surreal experience for me personally.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I guess one of our favorite people that we've had on the podcast is a good friend of mine. I know he's a buddy of yours too, and you helped get his start in the business, man. Jeremiah Plunkett. Talk about him.
Oh, Plunky, man, he's Plunky's a prodigy. It comes down to it. I mean, I get Buzzy and I, you know, we get a little, you know, we get some credit for training him and everything, but you know, I think Plunky did what I didn't do, which was put in the work. You know, He went to the gym and he studied film and, you know, continually and, you know, watched his matches and, you know, critiqued his own matches and broke down things. And he was just took it to a whole nother level that I just never did, you know. I regret that, you know, in all honesty. I mean, but I have to own it. You know, now I can't say, "Oh, I know I would have been a big mega star and blah, blah." But, you know, I can look back and say that, you know, the fact that I'm not, you know, and didn't reach that dream, you know, WWF. That's what everybody wants to get in. Everybody wants to make it to the biggest promotion in the world.
Right.
You know, but it never came true for me. And, you know, honestly, man, I'm really grateful that it didn't, you know, and that sounds crazy to say, but I mean, I can name 3 people in the business right now that was partially responsible or fully responsible for being in the business just because they saw me wrestle, and that's my guy. I want to be a professional wrestler, you know.
Yeah. Wow, that's
Mike
awesome.
Cobb, Lex Bain, and Colton Cage, are three guys I know looked up to me, and, I got into business because he saw me on NWA Main Event TV. I mean, he came down here to play football and ended up changing the course of his life and getting into professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that for a long time until he told me. I was kind of blown away by it. I didn't know that I would ever have such a influence on anybody, and I hope if I've influenced anybody, it's in a positive manner, or at least lesson learned of what not to do, which is kind of where Plunkett comes in, back to the whole Plunkett thing. I wasn't putting in the work that I needed to get to my full potential, but he chose to put in the work that he needed to do to get to his full potential. And I applaud him and respect him for that, and, Cooter, our other student, Larry Cooter, he also, he's gotten in the gym and got in good shape, and he's worked on his craft quite a bit too. So they're both doing pretty good, but Plunkett, I'd say is just he's more of a natural. It comes more naturally to him, both on the mental and physical capacity.
Yeah. Well, Cooter's actually when I first heard your name, Mike. I worked with Cooter at NWA Main Event there near the very end, and I managed him some. I got to manage him and his brother. We had a good little thing going, man, and I enjoyed managing those guys in that tag team. And then, man, I am super proud of Cooter, dude. He always kind of came off a little cocky, but maybe it was confidence, which I don't hate that. Cocky in a wrestling is a good thing. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes down to it, man, Cooter, I consider him a friend. I consider him somebody, and I'm impressed, not impressed. That's a bad word. I'm inspired by what he's been doing, because it really shows the look he's got going now. He's actually working for a good friend of mine in Virginia regularly. I think he's one of their title holders, and I helped him get to that, even though I said, hey, you work him, and it worked. And then boom, now he's doing it on his own, and he's taking guys with him. And, Cooter's a very cool dude. And I definitely enjoy knowing him and appreciate him. It's somebody I got to get on the podcast for sure. But, that's cool, man. Cooter and Plunkett are two great names for.
It makes me proud on the personal level that, we had 4 start in our school, and 2 didn't make it, but 2 did. But if there was 2 that we could have make it, I'm definitely proud of the 2 that we put out. It was a brief time that Buzz and I had our little school there,
Yeah.
And, but, you can't be any prouder of those 2. I mean, they don't do anything. Neither one of them do things to cause Buzz and I heat or bring shame on our name or anything. They've honored us as much as they possibly could, and I appreciate it and respect it.
Yeah, definitely. Hey guys, before we head to break, if you want to see some of today's guest Mike Wood's early work from 25 years ago, there's a YouTube channel we highly recommend called WMF Medium Rare that has several of his matches when he wrestled as Mikey Wood, including his notorious Whips and Chains match with George Gunn and his Quiznos commercial with Buzz Dupp and LA Player. If you haven't heard of WMF Medium Rare, it was a primetime show that aired from 2000 to 2001 in Rutherford County on Comcast Channel 10. Featuring Chris Gatlin and former guests of the show Quentin Charisma, Insane Shane, and of course the late great Hot Rod Biggs, with many others you're bound to recognize. I actually just received an email from our friend Monte Carlo letting me know that the next match he's posting will be Mikey Wood versus Tommy Bigfigure for the heavyweight title, so be sure to click subscribe to be notified. Remember, that's WMF Medium Rare on YouTube.
This is Kroll, and you're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling with Jimmy Street and Jared the Plastic Sheik. Be sure to like, subscribe, and view all of our USWO and Saw Wrestling content at Nashville Wrestling Network, exclusively on YouTube.
That's right, it's the Talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes, and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Mike, talk to us about working for WMF.
WMF,
Yeah.
man, that was prior to my NWA main event days. That was actually where the Mikey Woods came from.
Okay.
It was originally Mikey Wood. It's my intro music was Alice in Chains. I was a big Alice in Chains fan, and it was Alice in Chains Wood, and it was anyway. I don't know. I was probably a high moment when I come up with that. You know,
it's a good moment.
But anyway, and so they, you know, instead of the proper spelling of Wood and just as a rib, and then when I was working other promotions, they just put an S on it, and I just kind of got tired of arguing with them. It's not Mikey Wood, it's Mikey Wood. And anyway, so the S just kind of stuck. I just kind of got tired of arguing with everybody. It was like, no, that ain't my name. It ain't my name. Anyway, so it don't have an S. So I just let the S stay, and kind of worked out, I guess, you know, because Mean Mike Wood don't sound as good as Mean Mike Woods. You know, I don't think.
Right. I agree. That makes sense, man. You're right. It does. That's cool, though. I love Alice in Chains, man. You know, but
it was fun. WMF was fun, man. We were just, I mean, we kind of did a lot of innovative things, because like my best friend, Brian Cheatham, you know, Brian Fisher, you know, he was the owner, promoter of it. And it was a lot of guys, Chris Gatlin and Steve Lane, the Sudden Impact, the tag team, they were part of, you know, they were part of WMF. You know, Tommy Big Figure, and there were some other guys, you know, in there.
Hot Rod Biggs would come in.
Archie Kilo. Hot Rod Biggs came in and worked for us. Shane Morton would come in and work for us. I can't remember if Boogie did or not. I'm thinking he did, but I'm not 100% sure. But I know Kevin Jones and some other guys come in there. The late Troy Eaton and Mark Gordy, they worked down there some, and GQ and Kilo, and there's a lot of guys that started out down there. And I think GQ and Kilo still wrestle occasionally, but you know, they started after I got in. They got into business after me, but I think I'm the last WMF guy still working, and I don't mean this egotistically at all, even though some will probably take it that way, but I feel, in my personal opinion, that I'm the most accomplished out of all of those career-wise, out of anybody that came out of WMF.
I could see that. Definitely, man. I could definitely see that. But you know what I really liked about the WMF, and I found this out later because I wasn't aware of the promotion at the time. I found that the production level on the videos and all that stuff on their YouTube channel, you know, I think it's, you know, WMF Medium Rare, if I'm not mistaken, and Monte Carlo does all that. And I text Monte out of the blue, and I was like, brother, I said, I did not know about your promotion, but 20 some odd 30 years later, whatever, I love it, man. I think it was really cool, and it all the wrestling fit. I didn't think anybody took it down. Every one of the matches I've seen, like you said, Chris Gatlin, great, excellent promo, man. Gatlin was he was a great promo.
He's a high school friend too.
That's cool, man.
He's a high school friend of mine as well.
Yeah.
They did a lot of innovative stuff, like house matches, and we did a tag team gauntlet match. That was actually my idea. I'm going to take credit for that, because that actually was my idea.
That's awesome.
We did tag team gauntlet match, and then we used to do a chaos match. It was just like a big weapons anywhere, you know, like a false gun type weapons type thing. It was just a big crazy ass fight with, you know, pizza pans and, you know, cookie sheets and trash cans and just whatever, you know, kendo sticks they're wearing and stuff like that. Just, you know, they called it a chaos match.
Okay.
You know, and it was just usually somebody got bloody, and you know, we did some crazy things in some of those WMF matches. Kevin Jones and I worked a hardcore match. He put in this little building in Laverne where most of that WMF footage was filmed. He put a car hood on some chairs in the ring and lit it on fire and suplexed me onto it. I was shirtless, and I didn't thank the good Lord. I didn't receive any burns. I mean, it was hot. It sizzled when I hit, but I was sweating and stuff so bad by that time. But he burned. He got like 30-degree burns on his elbow from where his elbow hit when he don't give me that suplex. But we did crazy dumb stuff back then, man.
Yeah, stuff you wouldn't do now, but you're okay that you did it then, right? Basically. Yeah,
I mean, like some of those hardcore matches in the Evansville Coliseum. Man, I mean, I worked. I tagged with Madman Pondo one night against Big Lone Star and Necro Butcher.
Right.
And man, that was probably but I'm going to show you that match. I ended up taking Pondo's stop sign, shot off the Pondo stop sign from Necro, and then getting hit over the head with this plastic Coke bottle that had duct tape on it backwards, lined with thumbtacks. By Lone Star. And so, man, I'm like this stop sign's face down in the ring, and I'm pulling these thumbtacks out of my head, and it's just ping, 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 followed by drops of blood everywhere. Every time I'm pulling tacks out, it's followed by drops of blood. And I mean, it was violent. It was violent, but it was fun at the same time. As crazy as that sounds,
No, it makes
some
sense.
of the most violent matches with some of my best friends.
Yeah. You beat the hell out of your best friends. I like that, man. So let me ask you this. It's funny because those same tack bat, and it's funny you brought up Pondo. That's the reason Wolfie D and Ox Harley got into a shoot at IWA Mid-South is because of a tack bat. So, that's man. And it was Jamie who brought it in, actually. So it wasn't even Ox. It was actually Jamie who brought that into the fold. But
ironically enough, the first time I met Ox, I was traveling. I was with Wolfie going to Evans. Wolfie and I were going to Evansville, and I believe it. If I remember right, it was Wolfie and Chris Michaels and maybe Tracy. I can't remember. But I know it was. I was in the car with Wolfie, and I'm pretty sure it was Wolfie and Chris, and they were watching the video of it. And that was the first time I'd ever even really heard of Ox Harley. And then at the time they were doing. You remember Stadium Inn?
Oh yeah,
we were wrestling at Stadium. This is on Wednesday. Okay, 2 days later at Stadium Inn, I go in there and I look on who I'm working. Ox Harley. So I go to Wolfie. And I'm like, all right, well, what was the dude that you got in a fight with that you showed me that video the other night? And I was like, wasn't it? I said, yeah. I was like, man, am I going to have any problems with him? Is he, and he just laughed. Wolfie just laughed, said, no, and I love Ox, man. I've worked him multiple times. I mean, we had a great match. I mean, he was as easy and smooth as could be. I mean, if I didn't know anything about that, if I'd have worked him before I'd have been seeing that video. It'd have been hard to believe I was the same guy,
Right.
Right. But he's a great dude, man. I love Ox, man. He's so funny, man. He cracks me up, gets me laughing every time I see him.
Yeah. Well, dude, and it wasn't his fault. He just stood toe to toe with Wolfie because it looked like theoretically, I think Wolfie actually threw the first punch and then Ox is standing his ground. And I mean, it's actually, once you know the full story, you kind of understand that, like, you kind of almost like, man, Ox really didn't deserve that. You know what I mean?
No.
But it is what it is. And I think Wolfie and him are cool now, but it's just like,
oh man. Yeah, they were cool that night.
Yeah,
they were cool that night that I worked in the first time.
Yeah. So they've got over it, but it's just like, man, every time I watch that, I'm like, golly, Jamie brought it right in there into the fold. But whatever. But
well, we all know Jamie's been known to stir a pot or 12. So,
Jamie, yeah,
I mean.
Yeah,
and y'all don't forget, I was in the car. I was in the truck during the incident, the infamous fart incident.
Oh yes,
dude,
yes,
I was riding shotgun in the truck, and so I look over to see Shane puking handfuls of sausage egg burrito into his hand and chucking it out the window.
Oh gosh!
And then Buzzy's high pitched scream,
Yeah,
and
yeah. And they said you were kind of no-selling it, basically. Was that the deal, or was that not true?
The fart.
Yeah.
I mean, it was rank, but I mean, I'm known to rip some rank ones myself. So I mean, it wasn't the worst one I ever come across. But that's the first nickname I ever had was Fart Blossom. My Daddy, when he held me, he said he farted into his hand. He said, "Yep, that's my little fart blossom special right there." So,
that's awesome, man. I can see why you would pick mean over that, but still, that's pretty good. So, that golly, go ahead.
I would have got anywhere in the business on his fart blossom.
No, that would have been a weird gimmick anyway. But man, well, I guess let's talk about NWA main event. This is a big part of your career. Working with Jeff Daniels, Lone Star, Chris Gatlin. I've recently watched all 3 of those matches. Very good matches, man. So talk about, I guess, one thing. Was Jeff booking at the time? Was that him in them?
Jeff was booking. When I came to NWA main event, Jeff was booking TV.
Okay.
Jeff was booking and writing TV. And then Tommy was booking the house shows.
Okay, gotcha.
And so that was where Tommy was somebody that I'd always had a lot of respect for. I'd known Tommy a little longer than Jeff at the time, I guess, but so I knew Tommy a little better. And when Tommy gave me the vote of confidence on some things, that really solidified my confidence in myself that I was, starting to feel with what was going on where I was at, and got me a little more comfortable. And he just gave me the confidence to help me become a better performer, perform the way that I envisioned myself performing in my mind. Because Brian used to tell me, your body's a computer. You just got to reprogram it.
Right.
It's like, it's why you learn to tuck your chin.
Yeah.
You take it. You hit the back of your head on the mat enough, and then all of a sudden your body will reprogram and it'll learn to, it'll automatically tuck. You won't have to think, I need to tuck my chin. It'll just it'll tuck for you.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You muscle memory and things like that, but you can take the perfect bump and still get hurt because there's all kind of outline factors.
Right.
That rings, especially on the indie circuit. I took a bump. I took the perfect flat bump in Athens, Alabama one night, and lost feeling in my shoulder and hand for 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, that is wow. Yeah.
So we've talked about some extreme things in the ring, and you talked about this one guy who was on your Mount Rushmore earlier, Gypsy Joe, and tell us about the incident with Gypsy Joe and New Jack, the match.
Man, it was strange because leading up to it, I kind of smelled me personally, I smelled a rat, because I knew Porter was pissed at Joe, and I knew why he was pissed at Joe. It was all over a damn $30 bag of Reg Bud, that Joe got from Porter, and Porter asked him about the money, and Joe told him to go f himself. So it wasn't 3 or 4 weeks later that Joe's working New Jack.
Yeah.
And I've heard that Jack say that he didn't know that who Joe was and his history or whatnot, why he would no-sell him and stuff, because that was Joe's gimmick. He would no-sell something. Jack should have known who he was because, hell, he's the godfather of the stuff that you made your name on and made your of. Yeah, I think that people think it was set up. I think Jack gassed up prior to them getting in the ring, and looking for opportunity to get a shot in. And it got to the point where we were watching from the curtain, and there was a discussion going on behind the curtain amongst some of the boys who were standing there. Man, what do we do? And my response was, we don't do anything. Because you do anything, you run out there, you're disrespecting us. And I just couldn't. Ain't none of us in there were going to do. We all held Joe with such high esteem and with such love and respect. It wasn't none of us gonna. It wasn't none of we weren't afraid of New Jack. But we didn't want to disrespect Joe. Because Joe known to be able to handle himself. And I will say he took brother's best shot. I was behind the curtain, probably 15, 20 feet from where he took that shot to the side there with the baseball bat, and I know I spent a lot of time with Joe over the years. I traveled with him and I just go hang out with him just we talk wrestling and, you know, and just, you know, spent a lot of time with him. He was never the same after that, man.
Oh, I believe
he was never the same after that.
You know,
never.
And I can hear Porter gassing up New Jack too, you know, telling him, "Oh, you know, Gypsy Joe, he's a tough one. He'll give you his best," you know. And because I don't want to say speak ill of the dead necessarily, but Porter could be a little.
No, I'm not necessarily trying to either. But there was how do I say this without getting canceled?
Right.
That seemed to be a popular thing to do, canceling. You know,
Right.
It occurred to me the other day, when you cancel somebody, that's just like you know, nobody likes rejection, right?
Right.
That's like being rejected after you've been accepted.
Right.
You know? So how are you supposed to be rejected after you've been accepted? That just don't make any sense to me. But
yeah.
But people of Porter's persuasion, I guess you could say, took things too petty, were too petty about some things, and held grudges about the pettiest, smallest things, the smallest slights for a long time. You know.
Yeah, no, and that's, you know, and we've talked about it a million times with different people. Nobody's ever had the real scoop like this, though, man. I got to say, thank you for kind of putting some.
Well, I mean, I was there. I mean, like I say, I mean, hell, you know, I mean, at the time, around that time, I was cutting grass and stuff, and, you know, at the time I was cutting grass before I got into fencing, and, you know, I mean, I mowed Porter's yard for, I don't know, one season, maybe 2 seasons, I can't remember. But I mean, I used to you know, mow his yard, and, you know, of course, I got given it from him too a lot of times, you know. So, you know, I had to see him, and I knew the inner workings about it, you know. And I ran with Joe, you know. I mean, if I remember correctly, I'm the one that took Joe by there the night that he got the one that got poor pissed off at him. So,
oh man, man,
it is what it is. You know,
right.
People want to say something to me. People want to say something to me about saying this, then, you know, I'm not hard to find, and I'll stand on it. You know,
right,
so,
right.
You know, I mean, it's like, you know, you said that, you know, you mentioned, you know, one of my favorite sayings in the text, you know, the other day about, you know, having a lie, you got to remember a lie and chase it, you know, remember, you know, the truth's always at hand, and they don't ever go anywhere.
Right.
You know, so.
Right. Yeah. It makes it easier, man, you know.
You know, and I do want to say that I did like Jack, and I was a fan of Jack's work, you know. I mean, I worked a couple of shows with him after that whole Joe incident, you know. And I mean, I'll be honest, I felt myself conflicted because of my love for Joe, but, you know, Jack liked me, so, you know, and he met me on the other side of the curtain in Evansville when I come through on that. I was in full on me and Mike Woods hill mows, spitting and spewing and stuff on my way back to the, you know, talking shit on my way back to the curtain. And, you know, when he met me with a chest bump, you know, that's what I'm talking about, boy. That's how you heal right there. You know, and
that's awesome.
Did you ever work Jack?
No, I never did.
Yeah. I mean, Wolfie said the same thing. He's a good dude, you know. It's like a weird circumstance because, you know, Wolfie loves Joe too, you know. It's, you know, yeah. Go ahead, Jared. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, do you think, we've heard a couple people at least say that, you know, Jack's a little lucky that Joe was as old as he was at the time, or it might have been a little bit of a different thing in the ring.
Oh, yeah. I'd say that. I'd say that 100% for sure, you know. But I also say that I don't think that one reason why I think, you know, there's multiple reasons why I believe it was, you know, essentially a hit, you know, but, you know, and was set up. But I don't think Jack feared repercussions from within the business from anybody over it. But I do know that he did receive some repercussions from people within the business over it.
Really?
You know, I wasn't privy, you know, I was told, you know, and it's, you know, I'll just put it as a rumor, but I was told that you know, there's veterans that, you know, at least one veteran for sure that hemmed him up in a room and questioned him about it, you know, not that night, but at a show later on somewhere. It was, you know, he was questioned by, you know, some people that, you know, that knew and loved Joe and had worked with him prior, and
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that'll kind of go down in history as a really bad moment for a guy we all love, Gypsy Joe, and a lot of guys respect New Jack, and I don't want to cast. I mean, they're both passed on now, right? But I'm glad you shared the story that gave us the real scoop, because even Darkside, like you said the other night, even Darkside didn't get it right, So
yeah.
No, I mean, they just kind of brushed on it a little bit, and I mean, you seen Jack's like, oh, I mean, I don't know. There was a lot of layers to the politics and things, within the wrestling business, and the NWA main event was definitely no different than most any other promotion, and the politics that are involved in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm trying to think, brother. Did we ever run into each other out there?
Man, I don't know, Jimmy. I've racked my brain a bunch, trying to figure it out. I mean,
it's weird that we did
consistently.
Yeah, I
would think that we did somewhere. I mean, almost. Was I not there whenever you came to Porter's? Towards the end, or had I already gotten fired?
I think you'd already been fired, brother, if that's how you left, because I don't remember you there.
Oh, you don't know the story how I left, man.
I would love to hear that. I would love to hear that. That was what I was just about to ask.
Oh, it was when Porter was still at Freddie's, and Freddie's auction there, in Columbia, where the Gyps and Jack wrestled. But there was I was actually living in the same neighborhood where I currently live, just one street. I was living one street over at the time, and there's a girl, the lady who lived 2 doors down, was the aunt of this guy that wrestled. And, I've had issues with substance abuse over the years. I told you about, smizzing, but, I mean, in all honesty, Mean Mike Wood's character gimmick at its core is me geeked out on cocaine, pissed off, ready to rip your head off, and that's what it was based off on. Because it was, come get you some. I don't care. I mean, it's kind of what the gimmick was and was trying to be portrayed as, and that's why I say sometimes, I had trouble. The lines got blurred, between my character and myself, and thankfully I'm beyond that. On the other side of those types of issues, so definitely. I don't have to. Yeah. So now when I'm doing Mean Mike Woods, it's definitely a work. I'm not, but that's essentially what it was. Essentially what it was based off of. But the guy that worked there was telling people that I was selling cocaine. And I wasn't selling cocaine. I was using cocaine. So, but I didn't want it to cause, but to be talking about but he was down there telling the lady lived his aunt, 2 doors down, this. And so, I mean, she ran from the same people that I ran from, I mean, so the last thing in the world I needed was them to go, hey, there's a coke dealer living 2 doors down. Yeah. That's horrible. Yeah. That's horrible. And that's, that was the furthest thing from the truth. I mean, the chick I was living with at the time was alcoholic, and, we had our own issues, but, that was, so I made it be known, when I see you, I'm whooping your ass. And so I got to the show, and I got dressed in my full gear. I think I was supposed to be pre-main that night. And dude was wrestling on an undercard. Well, I waited. You've been to Freddie's. You just got that back door, that heavy wood back door. You got to slide open. Well, I was sitting over in a chair over by the stairs. That's where I usually sat. And I seen that door slide open. I seen brother come through the door. And so when he turned back, when he slid the door closed and turned back around, I hit him. And I was on him like stink on shit. And the guys got us separated, and he tried to say something, but my left arm was free. So he said, man, and bam, I hit him in the mouth. And he tried it about 3 different times. He started to say, man, and he got about 3 different times out, and he got 3 stiff left jabs to the mouth. And then I broke free and got after him again, and he made it out the door for the guys. When we crashed into the shark cage and broke the light bulb downstairs, enough of the guys grabbed a hold of me for him to get out the door. And he was ironic. And when he got out the door, so Columbia police officers were driving up the street. So he goes running out in the street and flags them down. And so they come into locker room and hauled me out. And I didn't end up going to jail because I told him what I did. I admitted what I did and told him why I did it.
Yeah.
And dude was like, man, you can't go, beating people up, just because they saying something, like that about you. And I looked that cop straight in the eye, man. And I told him, officer, I stuck both my hands out, together, in front of me, handcuffed me if he wanted to. I said, man, if you want to take me to jail, you take me to jail. I won't resist in any shape, form, or fashion. I'll go peacefully. But I'm a grown ass man. I got to look myself in the mirror every day, and ain't nobody gonna talk that shit that ain't true and potentially cost me my place to live, and there not be some repercussions. So if you want to take me to jail, take me to jail. But I'm perfectly okay with what I did. And they didn't take me to jail, but Freddie fired me. So I just went over to Freddie told Porter I couldn't wrestle that night because I got the cops to his building. So I went across town and started working for Shane and them over at Grand Slam after that.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to think if we worked together some for Shane when he started running again in Columbia at the Armory in 2012 or 13 or so, but I can't remember. But anyway, I'm sad that we never did because, heck, man, I would have loved to have managed you, not that you ever needed a manager, but it would have been fun, But, maybe in another life, Mike. You never say. We're not dead yet.
You never know.
Right.
You never know. I mean, I ain't scared to come that way. I've wrestled in North Carolina before.
Well, come on down, brother. We'll make it happen. So, but
I wrestled Chuck Taylor in Murphy, North Carolina one night, and that's one of my favorite matches of all time, man. It was just because the crowd was just so easy. I mean, I'd beat him, go, after me, I'd miss something, boom, he'd catch me in an arm drag, and I'd break free, boom, 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 bam, he'd catch me in an arm with it. It's just like, he'd get me an arm drag after a move or two of mine, and then, the finish, he was going to come off the top. He had me down. He was going to come off with a big double X handle off top. And I caught him in midair with a clothesline from hell. And, man, just the people just like, it's just action. But he took a hell of a bump, so. But that was fun, man. It was a fun crowd there.
So many people say negative things about Chuck. Maybe it was just his attitude about things, but that's, what vibe.
Man, I know our late brother, our late brother, Hot Rod didn't like him. I know that, and I even asked him about that. He was like, that guy, and, I've never had I personally have never had a problem with him. I mean, him and Ricochet used to work at the Coliseum in Edwardsville.
Oh yeah.
On Wednesdays, so, I see I see Ricochet on, big time TV and WWE, and I'm proud of him, man. He's a great kid.
Yeah.
Good dude in and out of the ring, super talented. But Chuck was always nice to me, man. I don't know if he thought I'd beat him up if he wasn't or what, but he never said anything sideways to me.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah.
Not too many people really did over the years.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. But makes it easier.
But that's one thing I always took great pride in was like Storm whenever he was with TNA and, Chase and, and Andy and them guys. I took pride in working them on a off booking to where they could go and make their other money that, if they're working me in the cab stand on Thursday night, they got good paying gigs on the weekend, a lot more than what I'm going to be making. I took great pride in taking care of those guys so they could go make their money.
Definitely.
That's where, to me, that knowledge of that and the guys that I know that I've had a positive influence on, or that's what makes me feel good about my career, along with, being honored by my brothers and sisters at the reunion with that, an award, but the respect of my peers is been a primary goal that I've chased, for 26 plus years now.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Well, it's come to the time of the show, brother, where we actually ask a few simple, easy, quick questions, and we just kind of make these. You can give us one answer, you can make it a long answer, whatever you want, but we just call these our quick questions. Would you like to play the quick question game with us?
I sure would.
DJ,
I'll give you a quick answer.
All right, DJ, hit that music. All right, we are back with Mike Woods on the Quick Question Show here. So with that first one, we always ask this one. So what would you tell a younger you? What advice would you give a younger Mean Mike Woods?
I would tell a younger me, Mike Woods, to stay out of Jim's Bar and Grill and get in the gym. So, and take better care, you know, that along with taking better, just to take better care of myself, man, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard to, you don't have health insurance, brother. It's hard to, you know, it's hard to, I work construction predominantly, you know, I mean, I work 40, 50 hours a week, construction job, and still wrestle, you know, 4 or 5 nights a week too. And, you know, I mean, that was kind of my gym, you know, so.
Yeah,
I was ready for a blunt and a beer after most of my days. You know.
And there's nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that at all.
What are some pet peeves you have in the wrestling business?
Oh man, biggest thing. Well, I don't know if you say it's something to do in the rest, but it's people smartening everybody. People smartening people up that don't need to be smartened up.
Right.
Mm-hmm. One thing I don't really like. I don't really like a lot of unnecessary people in the locker room. I guess it kind of goes back to my reference earlier about my first match. You know, I mean, people being in the locker room that don't really need to be in there and why it shouldn't be, because, you know, I mean, Billy Bob's girlfriend comes in there to see Billy Bob, and, you know, me and my opponent are sitting there talking about our match, you know, and she hears it, you know. Right. When we're in the ring, you know, who's to say that she ain't sitting there she ain't told 10 people around her what's going to happen in our match.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I used to say kayfabe's not dead, it's just dying, you know, and I like to still believe that, you know. But with social media, it's hard to kayfabe anything.
Right. Right. It is, man. It really is. Okay. Well, this one's a simple one. And so let's just say Super Bowl and WrestleMania are on the same night. Which one are you picking to watch?
Man, believe it or not, I'm gonna watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know,
okay.
I like WrestleMania and all, but I guess I don't watch wrestling as much as I used to. WWE kind of burnt me out when they became a vignette fest. You know, it was more like trying to keep up with General Hospital than it was
exactly
enjoying some wrestling match. So I mean, when it got to the point where there really wasn't enough wrestling to even learn anything from watching or really even enjoy, you know, that's kind of quit watching it.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you, man. That's a good one. Yeah. I mean, and it's, you know, that one is totally your choice. You know, there's no, I mean, I get what you're saying, because also you've been in the business, you're not a mark. So when it comes down to it, watching the Super Bowl, you know, that makes total sense. And I'm torn, and I didn't ask me the question, but I'm torn. I think I would have a tough time figuring out. I'd be flipping back and forth like it used to be Nitro and Raw, you know?
Right. Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah.
Do
you have a pre-match routine you have to do before every match you had or anything like that?
Man, I always like to be stoned. I prefer to be stoned when I wrestle.
Okay.
It's mainly because it just relaxes me enough. I mean, there's been times where I have I've had a few drinks before I wrestled before, but, you know, I'd say the majority of the matches I've had in my career, I was at least stoned, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Loosen you up some.
Yeah. It helps, man. I mean, it keeps me from throat punching, the average person that says something stupid to me.
Right.
But physically, it helps me as much or more than the minimizing the throat punches thrown.
Right. Right. That makes sense.
Dane's daughter Jerry Lynn loves them throat punches. That's where I get that. That's where I get that from. I've picked at her for years about throat punching people.
Yeah. She's a troublemaker.
She's a trip.
She's awesome. Yeah, throat punch. I'm just going to tell her that all the time that I see her now. So,
what she got him. She got him. She decided to throat punch. You better watch out, because you're not going to be breathing correctly for at least 10, 15 seconds.
Yeah,
I've been on the receiving end of one of them.
Yeah, don't forget, she's a Morton. She knows what she's doing. So, so if you were to have one, now I know you're still working, but let's pretend like you're at the end of your career and you had a wish, a genie that you could make this wish. And we're kind of comparing it to Ric Flair's last match, but not really, because that was kind of a crap fest. But when it comes down to it, who would you like to be your final opponent, and where would you like it to be?
Man, I'd like it to be in Murfreesboro, in all honesty, or you know, somewhere close to where family and some of my friends could come and watch. Definitely my grandkids. As far as opponent, man, there's a guy. Lex Bain asked me for a match one time, and I told him I already talked to him about maybe being my last match. So I'm gonna definitely want to work the guy before I retire. I don't know if it'll end up being my last match or not. It very well might be, but I don't know. If Chase or Chris Michaels would be a good one. I've worked both of them. I've worked both of them recently. As a matter of fact, I've worked both of them within 6 months. So I had to end up with a little bit of a shiner from the match with Chase, but he warned me that he was coming in hot, so I was expecting nothing less. So.
Yeah. Well, I got one more quick question here, and this one you can take as long or as short to answer this one. But to me, this one is my favorite question that we ask as far as these quick questions goes. If you could have a pause button on your life right now or a rewind button on your life, which would you choose?
Man, that's probably one of the toughest questions that you've asked me today, Jim. I mean, honestly, I would probably, as crazy as this is going to sound, man, I would probably rewind a little bit to where I could realize that the woman I love was who the woman I love sooner than what I did. So I could have more time with her than what I've already gotten, because I was 50 years old before I figured out, that she was the love of my life. So, I know things work out the way they do for a reason, and
right.
But I just wish I figured it out. I wish I figured, even if it was another 3 months or 6 months. I just wish I'd have figured it out that much, because I can't remember. I know that she wasn't part of my life prior. It's just hard for me to even imagine her not being a part of my life, and it's just crazy. Because now that's probably one thing. I would just rewind it. I rewind a little bit, so I can so we could have been together a little longer now than we have been. But that would be my wish, man.
Yeah, I watched The Walking Dead, and there was a character on The Walking Dead called Abraham, right? He was this big, tough guy, and he was like the brute of the crew at the time. I don't know if you've ever watched it. It's really not important to the story, but he falls in love in the show with a girl, and she says, well, we've got tomorrow, and he's looking at her, and he says, that's still not enough time. And I think about that with my wife right now, man. Like, I can tear up thinking about that's, we've got the past that we've had recent, but it's still not enough time. You know what I mean? So, yeah. No,
it's like, we were talking about missing, hot rod. We just seen him on May 11th. And, like I said, he sat in my car right beside me, and we talked privately for 10 minutes. And, I told him, I hugged him and told him I loved him. And, I love you, Mikey. And, we had a pleasant conversation. Our last interaction, was pleasant. I don't know if we ever had a crossword over the years. I can't remember it if we did, but,
Yeah, that was a great answer, Mike. I appreciate that. Sorry, I got a little emotional there, but dude, it's a tough question to answer, because I have so many regrets in my personal life, but at the same time, life's good right now too. It's like tricky, you know what I'm saying? But I'm glad I didn't have to answer.
Yeah,
that.
Well, man, there's so much, man. There's so many layers to, not just me, but most everybody that does what we do. I don't care how long, this business will twist you and jade you. If it'll eat you up and chew you, and spit you out. It just, I've seen it run some good dudes down the road,
It's the best thing and the worst thing for some people, you know.
It's the best and worst drug I've ever done in my life. It sure is, you know.
Yeah.
And I've done most all of them at least once, you know.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's a man. Well, I appreciate that question, brother. And so as we're kind of wrapping up the show, definitely thank you for coming on, Mike. But Jared always ends it with the last question of the show, brother. Go ahead, Jake.
All right, Mike. So you mentioned the Chuck Taylor match earlier as one of your favorite matches, but if you had, if that is indeed your favorite match, or then give us another one, or give us your favorite match if that one wasn't your all-time favorite match you've had.
Man, ironically enough, one of my favorite matches was that. Well, just about any match with Lone Star was good, but I mean, I'd say, man, I'd really have to say that tag match with Pondo and against Lone Star and Necro, you know, because I'd always kind of, I guess when you're a tough guy, that kind of, you know, when you want to be a tough guy in the business or be considered and perceived as a tough guy in the business, when you can go out and do some crazy shit with some guys that are recognized
as tough guys, yeah,
as tough guys for doing some crazy right there, and considered on the, you know, and one of their peers, you know, an equal per se, you know, man, that's pretty, you know, it's pretty flattering, you know.
Yeah.
First morsel, Bobby was Donnie Goodman was wrestling as Donnie Eaton was Bobby's partner, and I don't know, Chris Kern may have told you, you know, that I'd approached him about being my partner for a tag match against Donnie and Bobby, you know, and he was like, well, yeah, you know, and it's getting to work his hero. And I knew that, you know, Chris, you know, I don't even mean to leave him out. He helped me a lot too.
Yeah.
You know, I traveled with him and he opened some doors for me to some more bookings. And, you know, there's just, I'm sure I forgot somebody that I should give some flowers to, you know, on this thing. But if I do, I'm going to apologize. But, you know,
well, there's always part
two.
But there's always part two.
But but they were in the ring. They were in Donnie and Chris were in the ring, and Spitshine was the referee. And he come around and I was on the apron. He said, Bobby said he wants you to hit him. So I come in and I'm thinking as I go on across the ring, Bobby Eaton. I fixed it. Beautiful Bobby Eaton. You know, I'm marking out all across the ring. And all of a sudden I was like, bam. Oh shit. I just really hit beautiful Bobby Eaton. I mean, I blasted him. I tatered the absolute shit out of him, you know, and I was, you know, cause I wanted to, you know, he told me, I was like, oh man, it's gotta be smooth. This has got, you know, and then, well, I beating the brakes off myself all the way back across the ring, just mentally. And I get back to the apron, and Spitshine comes back around and leans over and says, Bobby said to tell you he didn't mean for real. You know, and of course I look over and Bobby's, you know, bouncing his hand off his head, and you know, I was like, well, damn, Mikey, you don't come down, you know. And we were great friends, but he just, you know, he didn't hold it against me. And you know, hell, he didn't even give me a receipt. So I definitely had one coming, but man, that was funny. I'll never forget that. I was just, I could have just stretched out. He didn't mean for real.
That's great, man. Well, what are you doing now, man? I know you're still wrestling. Where are you wrestling at? Where can the people see you right now?
Right now, I've been wrestling for, was it Refocusing in Evansville? I'm doing so. I worked for, done some IWF shows. I'm doing the next and Sparta, but I'm next the 8th. I'm doing June 8th. They're doing a joint in Cookville with a promotion out of Texas. So I'm supposed to work somebody from Texas, and on that one. There's CW in Evansville also that I'm wrestling for.
Okay. Very cool, man.
And then Bobo Brazil Jr. I don't know what the name of the promotion that he's got me booked in Indianapolis on the 22nd. So I'm supposed to go up there. Bobo helped me a lot years ago after we met at Porter's. I got some loops up in Mason.
Yeah, man, that's cool, brother. I mean, dude, I want to just say it was awesome to officially meet you at the reunion, brother. You know, and I'm very glad that you were our first guest right after the reunion. You know, when you were talking to me, we were talking about doing the podcast. I was like, "You're it, brother. You're it next." So I just, you know,
well, I appreciate you keeping your word, man.
Of course, brother. Of course. And I'm glad that you decided to come on with us too, man, because I tell you, man, it's always cool to learn about people that have such a cool history, but you didn't know. You know what I mean? It's like we know all the same people, but we didn't officially know each other. And I feel like I've gotten to know you, and I plan to get to know you more, man. And we just appreciate you greatly for coming on the show with us today, brother.
Yeah, anything I can think of in the future, I may be something to pick at Wolfie about or something. You know,
please.
I may text you something. You know,
please.
I said, man, you talk to him. When you talk to him next time, I say hello, man. I'm friends with him on Facebook, but
yeah, you know, I will. I'll text him in a minute. I
always pull for him and Jamie. Like I said, they were on that Clarksville show. You know, my second so-called match or whatever, and that was a pretty infamous night in their lives. You know,
oh yeah,
ended up being so.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was kind of a trip to be there, you know.
Yeah, no doubt, dude. That is crazy. Yeah. Well, we thank you so much, Mike, and it's definitely appreciated. And we will talk to you next time, brother.
All right, you guys take care. Thank you, Jared, for your questions and everybody's participation in this, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you
for having me on. Yeah,
Mike. Absolutely, brother. We'll get a part 2 in sometime soon. Okay, brother.
All right, buddy. Yeah, because we've been sitting here talking. I've thought all kind of things I like to tell you, but
well, yeah. Well, hey, I promise we'll get you part 2 because that's the beauty of it, man. We got some more time to do this, so I appreciate.
Yeah, I didn't expand on Punk. I didn't expand on Punky too much. You know, I make sure they both know that him and Cootie both know I'm proud of them. I've told them both multiple times. But.
Yeah. Good dudes, man. That's a good legacy you've built there. Two of my favorite people, and I'm glad that you had a part in that. So, but we'll talk to you soon, brother. Thanks again, Mike. All right. We'll be right back to wrap things up with the Plastic Sheik on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Hey, it's the Heat Miser Scotty Blaze, and I'm inviting all of y'all to join me on my brand new podcast, Turning Up the Heat with the Heat Miser Scotty Blaze. What are you waiting for? Come on over and join me. I'll be covering all the events of the day, global, national, pop culture, movies, gaming, whatever sounds interesting. But I'll also be playing some awesome skating shuffle music from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. Anything that has a good beat, I'm going to be playing it. You can rest assured. Come on over, tuthradio.com. The podcast is on every major podcast platform. See you then.
This is your rock star ring announcer, Aaron Camaro. I'm a man who believes the 2 greatest art forms ever created are professional wrestling and heavy rock music. So when I'm not hosting the best parties that also happen to be live professional wrestling shows, I'm hosting the Decibel Geek Podcast. Decibel Geek is a weekly podcast that features discussions of all things rock. We're talking the Beatles, the Stones, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Black Sabbath, Kiss, Ozzy, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Alice in Chains, Pantera, and everything in between. Plus, we'll turn you on to new bands from today that have the same spirit and style that the legends do. Decibel Geek is hosted by myself along with Rockin' Pod founder Chris Sinzak, and each week you'll get interviews with famous musicians and industry insiders along with informative, entertaining, humorous, and insightful discussions, and most importantly, a passion for the music. So if you love to rock out as much as I do, then this is your invitation to the greatest rock and roll party in all of podcasting. It's Decibel Geek, and it's available right now on all major podcast platforms. Oh yeah!
Oh, Sheik. Well, man, as I always say, that was an excellent episode. And man, Mean Mike Woods did not disappoint. I'm stoked about that one.
Yeah, man, I knew we were going to get good stuff out of him with talking about New Jack and Gypsy Joe, but it's, a lot of other great stuff too, man. It was great conversation and, a lot of good stuff talking about hot rod bigs, man. It was, it was a great interview, man. I'm glad we got this one at the time we did.
Yeah, for sure. High school with Shane Morton, wrestling with Jeff Daniels, riding the roads with hot rod bigs. I mean, there's so many people Mike's touched and been a part of in his career. And man, I mean, I'm just glad we got him on. It was funny because when I saw him at the reunion, he was like, "Hey man, I want to talk to you real quick." And we cleared something up, but it wasn't anything bad. It was just a interesting conversation, but a good conversation. And I was like, "No, bro, you're on the list, man. You've been on the list." And, once we talked and I knew that I wanted to get him on directly after the reunion. And, speaking of that though, the folks have checked out the live Devils, Wild Boys, and Morton's reunion podcast episode. And man, I've got a lot of people that I never knew even listened to the show sending us messages talking about, "Hey dude, that was a great episode. Thank you for doing that. I'm a big fan of those guys." And that's the stuff that kind of makes you keep doing this stuff, and that was a lot of fun we had there, and definitely got a good weekend trip in. And then, of course, getting to see Hot Rod that last time, that was good. And, of course, I wouldn't trade anything for that now. You know what I mean? And,
absolutely, man.
But we do have a lot more coming up. I know our next episode, I don't exactly have the guest planned for that one yet. I do have people that we're trying to line up right now about schedules and stuff. So we'll make that one a surprise. But, with the people that are on this list, I'm excited to hear what they got to say. So, with the Wolfie show, we've had some good ones here. We've had Downtown Bruno for our 150th episode. We've had King Cobra, longtime Memphis wrestler. Then we had a Tracy Smothers tribute coming out. And man, if you haven't got your video in and you want to send in a video talking about Tracy Smothers, just get that to me. You can get that to us at all of our social media platforms at GMBMPW. And that is Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Just shoot it to one of those and we will make sure that you get included on that Wolfie D podcast talking about Tracy Smothers. So yeah, but do you have anything you'd like to add before we go, Sheik?
I just want to say something that's kind of crazy, and this is not bashing any one thing. Did you see the Edge spot at the AEW pay-per-view where he broke his leg?
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't see the match, but I saw the spot, and that was
50-something-year-old man, a 50-year-old man. I don't know. I think he just missed what he was aiming to do, but.
Yeah, you don't move as quick as you used to, and and then he's also had injuries before. It's a shame. I hate to see it because definitely don't want a 50-year-old man getting hurt. I don't want anybody getting hurt. When it comes down to it. But man, yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah,
I just feel like he's had some. Which he's older, so you're going to have more injuries at an older age when you're trying to do that stuff, but. Yeah. Man, it was a rough looking spot. It just looked like he came down straight on his legs instead of laying out at all. Oof.
Yeah, I know, man. I know that was definitely crazy stuff. I hope he does all right. But I mean, he was kind of one of their go-to veterans right now. So I guess maybe that'll open up a spot for somebody else at the moment. Who knows? But speedy recovery to you. Absolutely. Maybe I'll head over to Asheville and say what's up to him while he's getting ready.
There you go.
You got anything else, brother?
I believe that's it, man.
All right. Well, definitely go check out previous episodes, especially we highly recommend the Hot Rod Biggs episode. I'd love to see that one climb all the way to number 1. I think he's at number 7. I know that is a crazy thing to say, but in tribute to him, I'd love to see that blow up and really, really go up. But y'all just keep his family in your prayers and thoughts, and we appreciate you all for listening. Definitely appreciate you, Sheik, and just keep coming back, y'all. We'll keep trying to entertain you over here. So that's all I got, bro.
Sounds good to me, brother Will. We'll do it again soon.
All right. See you next time on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Don't forget.
We love you, Hot Rod. We're going to miss you, buddy.
For those who don't know now, you know, baby. This is Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling with Hot Rod Biggs as a special guest, Jared Jimmy Street. We're going to take them to the limit one more time, baby, right here on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
With a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life.
We'll see you later.
This has been a James Rock Street production.